Billings.us. Thanks to Spreely TV. Thanks to WorldViewTube.com. We are going live. We've taken your calls. You can go over to my social media platforms, whatever one you prefer, X, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, and we are there, and the show will be broadcast live as well. Also, next week, coming up, the website, DougBillings.us. You can currently go there and support the program, DougBillings.us. Next week, we'll have links and so forth up there where the show will be broadcast live as well. For now, we're very grateful for, as always, to Spreely TV and to WorldViewTube.com. Also, the phone number, 901-316-8404. 901-316-8404. We'll be taking your calls later in the show today. And finally, reminding you about the website, one of our sponsors, LiveYoungerWithDoug.us. Look, a small patch that reignites your own body's stem cells. Make you behave younger, heal faster. If you've got the afternoon head droops, like when you're at work in front of your computer and the head begins to droop because you're tired, this patch fixes all of that. People that are wearing this thing after a period of time look, feel, and act younger. LiveYoungerWithDoug.us. I just want to get you some information, not only to use the patch, but if in the era of Bidenomics, you have been struggling to make ends meet like many people have out there, thanks to the high price of food, gas, and the cost of living in general, there's easy ways to, if you like this product, to turn it into a money maker for you. Very easy to get an extra $500 a month. And who among us couldn't use an extra $500 a month? If you have an entrepreneurial spirit, if you want to make more than that, it would be super easy to do. LiveYoungerWithDoug.us. All it is a form that you fill out, and all we want to do is present you with information. It's not a hard sell. It's not anything like that. We're not being, it's not like a band of used car salesmen are going to be following you. It's very simple, just information. LiveYoungerWithDoug.us. Head on over there and get it. You will be amazed at this. And so, now that that's out of the way, today's show, it's awfully hard for me to decide where to begin today because of the ineptness of the Biden administration. You look at the news cycle today and you figure out, what do I want to tell these good people out there? What are we going to talk about? Merrick Garland is in the news, Russia again in the news, and Russia in the news because the situation in Ukraine has been handled so badly by Administrator Biden and his team. It's incredible. So I think what I'll do is I'll start with Russia. So we have the weakest, the most inept, in fact, the worst president in the history of the American Republic. In fact, I'm convinced that Jimmy Carter is hanging on to life so long because he's enjoying the fact that he's no longer the worst president in history. It's not him anymore. It's Biden, by far. The most purposefully inept and chaotic system of government that the United States has ever witnessed. So Administrator Biden empowers Putin to send warships into the Caribbean, down around Cuba, right? Harkening back to the early 1960s again here, folks. So Russia sending their warships to Cuba, preparing to hold military drills down there in the Caribbean. It's all in reaction to the Biden administration's complete lack of any ability to negotiate. And in this case, to negotiate specifically with Ukraine and the situation between them and Russia. Administrator Biden, you may remember this, gave approval at the end of May for the Ukrainian forces to use American weaponry to target Russian assets within the boundaries and the borders of Russia itself. So not just remaining within the borders of Ukraine, but now Ukrainians can fire American weapons into Russia. I don't know about you, and I'm not trying to defend Putin at all, but if I were Putin, I would think that's a big deal. And I would imagine that if we had weapons from another country aimed at us, we would think that was a big deal as well. It's about negotiations or the lack thereof. Who in their right mind would think Putin would be okay with this? It escalates the entire situation. And again, one has to ponder, is this purposeful? Can some administrations be so inept? Can this administration be so inept that they would do this unless it were done on purpose? Well, when you look back upon the landscape of the country within the last 4 years, clearly the chaos that we experience in America, and you know what I'm talking about. We could talk about the border. We can talk about food prices, economy, the lack of energy independence, all of it. The increase in child sex trafficking, all of these horrible, chaotic things. Are they just accidental? Of course they're not. And we know better than that. It is purposeful destruction and chaos. The Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, they have a goal, and that is to spin chaos frequently, often, so that you feel like the government is the only way that we can protect ourselves. They want to strip you of the ability to act independently. They want to strip the American public, in fact, the American Republic, of any sense of self-identity, therefore the border situation, let millions upon millions of people come in and dilute America's sense of nationalism. It's all part of what's going on. And so, according to Putin, what Biden did, his administration, by giving permission for the Ukrainian armed forces to fire American weapons into Russia, basically amounts to the United States waging war on Russia. And who among you out there with any shred of sense can deny that Putin's actions or reaction to that is not only expected, but it's a rational one? Of course, it seems as if America is trying to escalate the war. General Flynn was on my show a couple of days ago, and he said it specifically. The current people in power in the United States want to take us to war. That's the Democrat Party, the Rhino class, the industrial military complex. That's their goal. The George Bushes of the world, the Karl Roves of the world, endless wars. They want to keep that going. And you've heard me say this before, and I'm, again, just to say this again and again, because the radical left, there are people out there on that side who watch this show and try to spin it into all sorts of nonsense. For context, I am not defending Vladmir Putin. I'm simply saying his actions, based on his worldview of trying to protect Russia, are rational. They're not irrational. He's the only adult in the room over there. My friend Ann Vandersteel says that all the time. Clearly, if we just think about it, if Russia gave some other nation permission to fire Russian weapons into the United States, we would view it as an act of war as well. What in the hell is Administrator Biden and his regime thinking? Putin sending a message, obviously, and he wants this message, and he wants what he says to hit close to home. Ukraine and the conflict over there, ladies and gentlemen, is escalating in almost every category. And so Putin sends us this message. It's an act of war. So the message, the war, if something were to go wrong over there and the Ukraine strikes, what happens? We use American weapons, not we, but the Ukrainian army uses American weapons. What happens if something goes wrong? What happens if one of those or some of those weapons hit a hospital, a school, a church, some other civilian target? It would be catastrophic. And the Russian military could then enable these warships that are down there in the Cuban waters to strike targets within the United States, or at a minimum, targets that are United States interests in the area or in other places. Where is the sense that anything that Administrator Biden and his radical left liberal party have initiated in that region would do us any good in the Ukraine, in that area? I'll answer it for you. There's no sense to any of it. Nothing that this administration has negotiated or bargained or set in play is benefiting the United States of America in any way. And I would even say nothing that this Biden administration has negotiated, bartered, or enabled or enacted is benefiting Ukraine either. I mean, they're still getting pummeled. They didn't have to be in this war. The war didn't have to start. This is all the results of the radical left policies, their platform, their politics. It's all related to the Biden administration, obviously. So 3 Russian warships now we have down there in our neighborhood. down in Havana Bay, baby. And they're greeted down there with all of this military pageantry. We have celebrations. There's a 21 cannon salute. Intelligence agencies also reporting that a nuclear submarine is on the way. And by the way, the submarine's name is the Kazan, Kazan, if any of you want to keep track of that. But Russia says it's not armed with nuclear weapons. It's a nuclear-powered submarine, but it does not have any nuclear weapons. I'd take that with a grain of salt, but so be it. That's what they're claiming. But we didn't have to be here. That's my point. Look, Putin did say, and he suggested, and this is serious, he did say and suggest that he may authorize strikes on the United States by means of what he said, proxy countries. In other words, according to him, it's precisely what the United States is doing in Ukraine. We've now given Ukraine permission to use our weapons against Russia, so why couldn't Russia give other nations permission to use Russian weapons against us? It's a logical argument, and it's a argument, and it's a situation, and it's a mess that we didn't have to engage upon. You know, folks, when Flynn was saying the other day on the show, these people want to take us to war, he's right. It's another example of how this Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat, there are no more Democrats, this Commusocialist party continues to search out ways to cascade down upon us chaos, not only in America, but around the world. Ukraine is the primary example of that going on today. President Trump never got us into these kinds of situations. There's a guy out there today talking about this, Benjamin Gadan. He's the director of the Latin American program in the Washington area. It's the Wilson Center. It's a think tank out there. And Benjamin Gadan was saying that most of the warships, most of them, are just meant to be a reminder to Washington that this is an unpleasant situation when an adversary, the United States, meddles in situations abroad that are really viewed as none of their business, in the Ukraine, for example. So it's meant to be a show. It's meant to be a symbol, a sign. Of course, I get it. But he also said it reminds Russia's friends, including, those down in the region. You can guess who they are, right? Obviously, Cuba, one of Russia's friends. Also, Venezuela down there. And that it reminds them that Russia is on their side. So, of course, they're going to flex their muscles and react to this in some way. You'll notice that when Biden made this announcement a few weeks ago about giving permission for Ukraine to shoot weapons, American weapons, into Russia, Putin didn't offer a knee-jerk reaction. He didn't just react that day or that week. It's been several news cycles since this came up. But it's important enough because today, once again, down in Cuba, we have Russian warships engaging in war games to flex muscles and to show us that they don't like the fact that they're demonstrating acts of war against Russia, the United States demonstrating those acts of war. So, and Putin said, and he asked the question today, if the United States considers it possible to deliver such weapons to the combat zone to launch strikes on our territory and create problems for us, why don't we, Russia, have the right to supply weapons to the same types of regions and peoples in the world where they can be used to launch strikes against sensitive facilities or interests of America? Why couldn't we do that, Putin asked. Folks, you can like him or hate him, and I'm not defending him, but it's logical. It's logical to ask because, again, if it were happening to us, we would be asking the same questions. You can count on it. This is a common sense reaction that Putin is giving from anybody who's being threatened. And it also is a significant reveal, once again, of the abject inability of Administrator Biden to lead and for his administration to give any sense of world security, world dominance, world leadership. This is why we have all of these nations abandoning the United States and BRICS and so forth, and not wanting to have anything to do with us. So there's many more reasons, but this is one of them. The key one is the ineptness and the weakness demonstrated and portrayed by Administrator Biden. The entire war could have been avoided. This entire Ukrainian conflict could have been avoided easily. And I'm going to tell you how that would have been possible when we come back from the break. But let me remind you a couple of things. First of all, DougBillings.us. We are the ones who who are giving you the truth, the news that you don't see on legacy media and TV. We're giving you unfettered access to the truth. Support the program, please. DougBillings.us. Head over there. Hopefully, monthly recurring donation to DougBillings.us. You can do it over there. Don't forget also LiveYoungerWithDoug.us. I talked a lot about it at the beginning of the program. Head over to LiveYoungerWithDoug.us. Learn about a great product and how to make some extra money in the era of Bidenomics. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. Enjoy this trip into capitalism. I'll be right back. Believe it. Cheers.
This is single cell plant microalgae phytoplankton, actually. And it is the most comprehensive nutritional profile. All you do is here's a tiny, tiny scoop. I mean, it's so little. You can put it in coconut water, like low sugar, no sugar coconut water, like 8-10 ounces, and you just drink down when you have your first meal. This literally comes from the heirloom seed of single cell Gotatana. Gotatana is the name of the strand of phytoplankton. This is literally God's first food on the earth. It feeds the ecosystem in the ocean, but this is organically grown. They take seawater off the coast of Spain, purify it, and they take the heirloom seed of the Gotatana, the strain of plant-based phytoalgae. It's single cell, so it's food. It is whole food, goes right through your gut wall, into your bloodstream, into your cells.
And it's also loaded with magnesium, is that right?
Oh, magnesium, trace minerals.
Okay, now for those who don't know this, Dr. Lana, if you are in a stressful line of work, like I'm in, magnesium can make you have an overall sense of calmness, well-being. It could just ratchet it down a few gears, right?
Absolutely. Magnesium's in here, trace minerals. You actually, and this is not a weight loss product, but let me tell you something. My patients love it because it lowers the cravings like almost instantly. You literally, Brannon, could live on good water and you could live on a tiny teaspoon of this every single day. This is responsible for 90% of the oxygen on Earth.
All right, everybody, welcome back to The Right Side with Doug Billings. We meet over here in determined prayer and determined patriotism. That is how we roll. So the entire debacle that is going on in the Ukraine, brought about us on purpose by the Biden administration, could have all been avoided. There's so much going on in the news, but it does need some context because, again, it highlights, and we're going to talk about this later in the show as well, it highlights the ineptness of the Biden regime. And if you want to talk about Ukraine and Biden, we're going to talk about Merrick Garland today, too, because he was referred to by Congress for criminal charges. We're going to talk about that. 901-316-8404. If you want to get in on the call line here and get in the queue, it is 901-316-8404. 8404. Be happy to take your phone calls and talk with you good people as we stay in shoulder to shoulder in all of this. But how, you're asking? How, Doug? How could the situation in Ukraine be avoided? Do you think that President Trump would have been the one to get this? The entire situation, folks, could have been avoided. Look, I mean, you and I could have negotiated a better deal here in a better situation than what Administrator Biden and his team has done. And I know for a fact that President Trump could have done it. Remember, the backdrop of the entire situation involves the United States allowing Ukraine to be part of NATO. This is a big problem for Russia in general and other nations as well. But Administrator Biden didn't have to promise membership into NATO for the Ukraine. He didn't have to do it. Ukraine wanted to feel protected from Russia. You know, a lot of people want to feel protected from Russia, but we did not have to give them admission into NATO in order to protect them. You know, if Donald Trump was there, if any skilled negotiator was there, we could have said to Zelensky, look, Zelensky, We, the United States, we will protect you. We'll take care of you. We'll have your back, but we can't let you into NATO. Why can't you let us into NATO? Why? What? Who? Because for the last 20 years or more, Vladimir Putin has been saying, if you put a NATO member nation on my doorstep, on my border, I'm not going to allow it. I'm not going to like it. I won't let it happen. 20 years he's been saying this, but yet NATO and the United States continues to poke the bear and continues to do this. We can be strong and we can be an alliance and we can protect other nations without having them join NATO. Remember, 20 years Putin's been saying this. And what do? We rub it in his face. And just imagine if the roles were reversed. If Putin was if we had a nation in a situation for national security where our borders were under attack. Sound familiar? Wow, maybe we do. If our country was constantly being surrounded by nations who we might not think are friendly to us. So Biden and the administration knows that our United States is situated as such, where that's not such a problem for us as it is with Russia and their geography. But when they open up the border, we are threatened. We are threatened from countries who don't like us because they send people in here that want to do us harm. And they will do harm. I'm convinced it's just a matter of time until we have a massive terror event in this republic precisely because of the border catastrophe, again, purposefully put in play by the Biden administration. For those of you old enough to remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, the same thing happened with us in reverse. We didn't want Khrushchev to be building nuclear launch sites and missile sites in Cuba, and we didn't allow it. And yet we somehow think it's okay for us to make bordering nations of Russia NATO members doing the same kind of thing? No. The same principles apply today, but in reverse. And so, again, not defending Putin, but he's not acting irrationally. Imagine the shock and the surprise that must have gone through Russians last month when Biden approved the use of American weapons to be fired into Russia. What if it were us? Now, there's also, and this is interesting, Ukraine has this controversial battalion in its military. It's called the Azov, A-Z-O-V battalion. And Biden gave them permission to use this United States weaponry. And why is that interesting with this particular battalion? Because that particular battalion has neo-Nazi roots, and it's been central to Russian propaganda about the Ukraine government. Neo-Nazism in Ukraine, it's a big deal, it's a real deal, and research it. So Putin, again, I want to be very clear, because I'm going to say some things that might appear to be defending him. Putin is not, I'm not defending him. He's not a good guy. He certainly is trying to protect Russia. You got to give him that. You got to admit that. He's trying to make Russia great again, isn't he? He's protecting his country. He has said publicly that he views the radical liberal agenda in the West, Italy, Germany, the UK, the United States, and more, but the radical left woke agenda that these nations in the West are engaging upon and adopting, the transgender movement, anti-God movement, this coalition of immorality, the woke movement, they view it in Russia as an invasion, and they don't want the woke liberal agenda in Russia. So they're shutting it out. They're trying to buffer Russia against all of that. A lot of the woke liberal and some conservative snowflakes don't like that. Well, why not? There is no LGBTQ kook movement in Russia. I can assure you of that. Putin has opened up churches. The Orthodox Church of Russia is now the official the Church of Russia, of which Putin is a member. But he's a communist, Doug. No, he's not. Putin is not a communist. I'm not defending him. I'm just telling you the facts, folks. Do with them what you will. But he's trying to keep the left-leaning, liberal, woke, radical infestation of policy, practices, and politics out of Russia. So the neo-Nazi battalion gets a hold of these weapons, and Biden supports that. He gave specific permission for this battalion. So a lot of things to uncover and think about there. We look at this thing down in Cuba. There are a lot of people that think, and rightly so, that we are on the threshold of war with Russia. And don't be fooled when you hear things. I read something today. I think it came across the AP wire. Tactical nuclear weapons, a real possibility within the Ukraine region. There is no such thing as a tactical nuclear weapon. A nuclear weapon will destroy everything within a certain rate of miles. You can't be tactical. You can be over the top, and you can be destructive. You cannot be tactical. It's a weapon of you cannot be. So that phrase, it doesn't make sense. I can't. You can tell I'm struggling to define it because it just doesn't make any sense. Tactical nuclear weapon. There's no such thing. So that's, again, Biden inept. Foreign relations can't do it. Handle it. Trump, the negotiator, promising Zelensky protection and letting him know that America has his back without being part of NATO. We should really take a look at that going forward as far as our foreign policy and escaping these kinds of situations. So, again, for all of you radical liberals out there who troll me, I am not defending Putin, but I am saying, and again, credit to Ann Vandersteel, because I think she said it first, Putin is the only adult in the room over there. And I agree with that sentiment. We need an adult in the White House. We can't even we don't even know, Biden can't even talk about things in front of Congress because the judge has ruled her, and we're going to talk about, he's too senile. Why in the world? Did you watch the D-Day celebrations last weekend? Did you see how he was ushered off the stage? I'm not going to make any claims about poopy pants, but you never know. You never know. Somebody, I said the other day, well, D-Day has now been redefined. Diaper Day. Thank you very much, Administrator Biden. A whole new look. He had to run off the stage, and the French President Macron had to finish shaking the hands of the American veterans that Administrator Biden was supposed to be greeting. It's a cascade of nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. We understand that what we're seeing from the Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is purposeful. The destruction, purposeful. The policies, it is so bad that the John and Jane Doe on the streets of America, who may have voted for Administrator Biden, are looking around saying, this is not what I signed up for. I'm going over here. They're coming over to the right side. They're coming over to President Trump in record numbers. The legacy media won't let you get close to this truth. President Trump is up over 6% nationally, leading in the battleground states. The radical left has given up on Georgia. Trump is leading in Georgia. The DNC not even spending any money in Georgia with ads and so forth. That's a tell, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a big one. So you give yourselves permission to understand, while we can't become complacent, we know that we are having it's record-breaking numbers, people coming to President Trump. And I want to talk with you about it. So make sure you give us a call. Get in line here on the phone lines in the queue, 901-316-8404. 901-316-8404. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the call-in number. I want to talk with you. Let me know where you are. Let me know what you think about Cuba, about Russia, about Putin, about the Ukraine. Let me know what you think about this story, because Merrick Garland is in the news today, ladies and gentlemen. Our Attorney General, the guy that didn't quite make it to the Supreme Court, thank God. Can you imagine if this nut job was on the Supreme Court? Talk about a politicized court that we would have. So we do owe a debt of gratitude to Mitch McConnell. I know it might be hard to say, might be hard to admit, but he was really good at keeping Merrick Garland off of the Supreme Court. So cheers at least to McConnell for that. But Garland now being held in contempt of Congress. The House voted to hold him accountable and in contempt today, referring him for criminal charges. Now, I know we don't let our hopes get up, do we? The measure passed along party lines. Well, almost by party lines. I'll tell you, 216 to 207 votes. Just one Republican rhino didn't vote for this. David Joyce, and you people in Ohio, that's where David Joyce is, take note of that. He didn't vote to recommend criminal charges, and it's crazy what he says as a justification. I'm going to tell you about it because he put out a statement about his vote, and he says, as a former prosecutor, can you just see him? As a former prosecutor, ladies and gentlemen, I'm David Joyce. I want to let you know that I can't, in good conscience, support a resolution that would further, this is where it gets good, that would further politicize our judicial system just to score political points. The American people expect Congress to work for them, to solve policy problems, to prioritize and provide good governance. Enough is enough. End quote. Right there from the mouth of David Joyce. Really. Classic rhino speak and a capitulation to do nothing. Liberals can go ahead and weaponize the judicial system all they want. They can attack the opposition for political gain and political points. They can jail the political opposition for political points. They can do anything they want to the Republican Party. And the rhino class within the Republican Party, the Republicans in name only, do absolutely nothing about it. No justice, no retribution, no consequences. Nothing. It's the reason why we, you and me, are getting involved in our local level, again, at record numbers. It's this kind of nonsense that is finally shaking us and waking us up. Because as I've said, the conservative side of the American public has not gotten involved. Not thoroughly enough, not as much as the liberals have, and we need to, and we are. And so this nonsense, I mean, if you don't cry, you laugh. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So the reason this is all happening is that because Garland refused to turn over the audio recordings of Special Counsel Robert Hur. H-U-R. He is the guy who interviewed Administrator Biden. And, you know, the back a few months ago when it was ruled that Biden's too old, he's too senile, too dementia-ridden, he can't stand trial, he's just too old, he's too fragile. So Congress wants those tapes. They want to listen to see what Biden sounded like, what kind of evidence is there about his frailty. So that's the uproar here. That's what we're against. I'm going to go into the tapes, talk about her, and talk about what kind of mishandling of these documents was involved with the decision to refer Garland for criminal charges and why Garland is not releasing the tapes and probably will not face any consequences. We're up against a break. We've also got your calls coming up, so make sure that you get in line here. 901 316-8404, 901-316-8404, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, DougBillings.us, please head over to the website. Prayerfully consider offering a monthly reoccurring donation so that we can keep this show coming to you. This is how I make a living. I want to bring you the truth. I started this show 4 years ago. You have stood with me. We get demonetized on all of the social media platforms, if not overtly canceled. Look, there it is. You can see it right there. The website. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that thing. You want to go over to DougBillings.us, take a look at that. The donation tab is there, and we just ask you to support us. And I will do everything I can in my power to continue to bring you the truth and the stories that the legacy media will not let you hear. And as a result, what do you get out of it? Well, you get to become part of the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of things coming your way on the website. Private blogs, special newsletters, and the right side memo from me, all of those things for folks that subscribe, and we appreciate it. It does not go unnoticed. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything, the emails that we get and so forth. I appreciate your support. We are in this together, and I will be right back after you take this very short break. Come on back to me. God bless you. Cheers.
I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Right Side with Doug Billings, where it is official. Liberals are intellectually immature. You can count on that. Take it from me. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. Just look at them. But speaking of that, you ever notice, I saw a picture, somebody put it on X today, of Maxine Waters. Isn't she a beauty? And I'm reminded of that because I often say conservatives are so much better looking than liberals, ladies and gentlemen. Am I crazy? And I'm not talking necessarily just about the physical look of a conservative versus a liberal. It's their whole demeanor, right? Take a good look at Maxine Waters. She basically summarizes the look and feel of every liberal out there. There is no inner sense of wonder, joy, and meaning in this life, right? They're always so angry. They're always so depressed and angry, depressed. They're constantly playing the victim card. They're full of rage, and they feel as if they have been slighted. And you can just look at them and you can tell, can't you? I think you can. I know I can. So be happy. The part of the reason why of all of that, God, ladies and gentlemen, the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, this Constitution, this republic is meant for a moral and a religious people. Anything else is wholly, H-W-H-O-L-L-Y, unmanageable. If we weren't a moral and religious people, the Constitution here would not work. And that's exactly what the radical left liberals are trying to unravel, the Constitution. Tell me that that's not true. Prove to me that that's not true. They've already officially eliminated God from their platform. And every one of their actions stands in direct opposition to, I think, what the founding fathers envisioned, for what God himself and his divine providence envisioned for us. This wonder, joy, and meaning that we see as conservatives is easily accessible to us because of our worldview. Even in times of tragedy, adversity, and challenge, we know that we can overcome these things, that blessings are waiting to be born. Liberals don't. They can't. They have meltdowns when things don't go their way. But we will overcome this. We know that there is wonder, joy, and meaning in this life because of God's divine providence, because of what this republic represents and what it in fact is. And that is a nation founded and inspired by God. And the radical left will have none of that. So, and one final note on that topic, don't fret about numbers, because we conservatives outnumber them by far. They only seem as if they're the majority because they have control of media and entertainment and news organizations. But we are the majority, and we are a vast majority at that. All right, 901-316-8404. Calling, the lines are going to be opening here in a few minutes. You're going to want to get in, 901-316-8404. But we were talking about Robert Hur, the Biden issue, being too old and too senile to stand trial for any of his misdeeds. Remember, it came to a head because of the classified document scandal that we experienced last year, right? Biden and Trump both had classified documents in their possession. The difference is, of course, Administrator Biden wasn't in the White House when he was beginning to hoard all of these boxes of classified documents. He was the vice president. And a vice president, as you know, doesn't have the authority to declassify classified documents. So Trump does, president. That's the dichotomy. That's the difference. Radical left, oh, no, secrets. Remember, nuclear secrets were Mar-a-Lago at Trump's home, which wasn't true, not ever true. Trump's giving nuclear secrets to other nations' leaders. Never true. Not true. The nonsense they post and they put out, rarely, if ever, true. So Her's findings cleared Biden of this classified document wrongdoing in his handling of these documents. I mean, they were everywhere. They were in his garage next to his Corvette. They were in his kitchen, in the cabinets. They were at his nonprofit organization. I mean, they were strewn here and there. President Trump had one file folder. Administrator Biden had boxes upon boxes of classified documents. And President Trump only had them at Mar-a-Lago. They weren't strewn everywhere. They were in a secure room. Huge difference, but I digress. So Her's findings cleared Biden of these classified documents and of how he handled them. But it also said, this hearing, and this is why this is why Congress wants these audio recordings, because it also said that Biden was senile and mentally incapable. And I quote from the ruling itself, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. It's all describing Administrator Biden. And, continuing the quote here, it would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, a president well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Play that tape back, ladies and gentlemen. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict a president well into his 80s of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Biden obviously doesn't have a mental state of willfulness. He can't willfully do almost anything except what he did in Normandy, and he had to leave the stage. Diaper Day, ladies and gentlemen. D-Day. He renamed it. He rebranded D-Day. It's amazing. It all happened in just a matter of minutes. So Administrator Biden gets a free pass. He can break laws because he's a member of the radical left mob. He can violate national security measures because of his dementia. Okay, got it. Thank you very much, Mr. Her. And after the vote today and the decision to refer Merrick Garland for criminal charges because he's not going to give Congress this tape that apparently displays in full context the dementia and the depth of it of Administrator Biden, that the corrupt Justice Department released this. They had to come to Garland's defense. So Garland himself, this tape. Now, whether or not he wrote it, I don't know, but it came from his office. And it says this, and I quote, "It's deeply disappointing that this House of Representatives has turned a serious congressional authority into a partisan weapon. Today's vote disregards the constitutional separation of powers. The Justice Department needs to protect its investigations, and the substantial amount of information we have provided to the committees must be protected." Okay, right. So you hear that? It's outrageous that the Republicans in the House have weaponized the Department of Justice, or weaponized their authority towards the Department of Justice. Merrick Garland saying this, of course, from the Department of Justice that he leads, that is absolutely and 100% positively weaponized against their primary opponent in the upcoming election. It's amazing the doublespeak and the things that these left-wingers can say without having any kind of consequence. And we have got to stop this. And we are. You, good people, you're getting involved, and there will be a tsunami. Too big to rig. We need to get everybody out there to vote. And while you're thinking about that, Election Day is important for us. As conservatives, please, I know that it's a convenience to be able to go and vote early, but that is a mistake. First of all, it's not what the founding fathers intended. We have to honor their intent. Oh, but Doug, it was the horse and carriage. You know, they didn't even have cars. They had no modern conveniences back then. They didn't know that you could vote in advance. No, they didn't want us to vote in advance for a reason. They could have said, let's have election month. Every day during the month, let's come in and vote, ladies and gentlemen. But no, They made election day for a reason. The votes need to be counted. People need to get out and do it on that day. We can't extend these things for months at a time. Why? Because that breeds fraud. Now, we will always accommodate the military and the disabled with their ability to vote early, okay? But for you and me, please don't be tempted by the demon of laziness to say, well, I don't want to stand in a line for 3 hours or 4 hours on election day. I'd rather just go in and vote and get it over with. Don't succumb to that intellectual immaturity, and don't succumb to that dishonoring of our founding fathers. We have got to get out there and vote, make it too big to rig on election day. And we need, there's a whole bunch of things we could talk about that topic. Make it a national holiday, all of that. Yes, of course, I agree. Make election day a national holiday. Let people off work. Let them go vote. I mean, they can do it in third world countries and have results by the end of the day, or certainly by the end of the next day. We can do it, but the radical left is doing everything they can to prevent it because they know that an extended election time invites their ability to change results. So the Department of Justice has done everything in its power to prosecute, to persecute, to charge, to imprison members of the opposition. They've done everything they can, yet this Attorney General, Merrick Garland, dares to say that it's the Republicans who have weaponized justice. We will not tolerate it. Calling lines are open, ladies and gentlemen, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. If you want to be part of the show and part of the discussion, it's time. Call in now. We'll be right back after this break, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with me. God bless you. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right side with Doug Billings, right side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to the Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready? Hi, Right Side with Doug Billings, where I am standing shoulder to shoulder with you to lead you through the nightmare to wonder, joy, and meaning. You're doing the same thing for me. You're helping me through this as well. We're going to get through it. America is not on her deathbed. We are not. We are in a nightmare. I grant you that. Absolutely so. The good news about nightmares, as you know, is that everyone wakes up from them, and we are in the process of the great reawakening. I'm telling you, it is happening. All throughout the Republic, we see evidence of this. Every demographic of people in this country waking up to the chaos, the purposeful chaos that has been cast down upon us by this Commusocialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, and they're coming to the right side, to the Trump side, to the MAGA movement. We are going to prevail. Nothing wrong with saying MAGA, Make America Great Again. It's not a bad word. And American exceptionalism is alive and well. Look at what's happening around the world. I'm going to get back to our domestic issues in a minute, but during the break, I was just thinking, We can't let the news of the day and our frustrations of this Justice Department and how members of the radical left don't seem to ever be held to account, right? I know that everything within us wants to be, I wouldn't say depressed, but certainly angry or despondent about all of that. We can't become depressed. We can't become lost without hope. There is always hope. America, again, is not on her deathbed. She's in a nightmare. And there are millions upon millions of people waking up to this reawakening. And I think that this reawakening involves the divine providence of God. I think that we're realizing the words of John Adams are true, that this Constitution is meant for a moral and religious people. And the governance of anything else than that is not possible, paraphrasing what John Adams said. I believe that, and I know that you do too. Don't give up on America. You look again for proof of some of this, and you can see this reawakening happening around the world. In Europe, elections going on. You've probably seen news clips. Elections in Europe are now coming. The results are now coming down and being made available. The right side is winning over there. The right side, the side of morality, of God, of wonder and joy and meaning and overcoming adversity, the conservative mindset, it's winning. Nationalism, idealism, it's all winning. And they're going crazy on the left, of course, as you can imagine, right? So the Netherlands, we have Venezuela, not in Europe, but also, make Venezuela great again, right? We have all sorts of countries. We have, look, Italy, the UK, Germany, the most significant powerhouse in Europe, the European Union, all of these organizations having elections, and the conservative movement is winning within them. And I'm telling you that it's going to happen in America in November. Now, many of you have primaries out there coming up. A lot of you have primaries in August, but throughout the next few months, primary season is upon us. Get out and vote in your primaries, please. This is determined patriotism. It's the hard work of it all. I encourage you to get involved and do it. We have got to begin to do what the left has done so well for such a long time, and we haven't, right? I said that, I was talking about that earlier. But the weaponization of the Department of Justice under the leadership of Administrator Biden, you notice I never call the guy president, right? You notice that. Administrator Biden and the radical left mob, they've made a science out of turning the Department of Justice into a weaponized organization. They've almost perfected it. And the statement that I read before we went to the break concludes with one of the most significant pet peeves that I have. And it's what Merrick Garland says in his conclusion that absolutely makes me go, please. And I'm going to quote, so you'll know what my pet peeve is he says, I will always stand up for this department, for its employees, and its vital mission to defend our democracy. Can you figure out what word in there sets me off? Democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, I know, because you're members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land, we are not a democracy. We are a republic. Why won't the radical left mob say that word? If you're on social media, you'll notice celebrities, they never say republic. It's always, that Doug Billings, look at him. He's a threat to our democracy. You look at that worldviewtube.com. Have you checked out that platform that Doug's on? They are a threat to our democracy. Spreely TV, are you kidding me? Threat to our democracy. We're a republic. The same thing happens in the elected class on the left. Republic is not used. And it makes me wonder why the radical left, is it because it's the root word of Republican? What is the reason there? The founding fathers had specific and very passionate debates about America not being a democracy. We are a republic for a reason, and we will, look, Merrick Garland, these people display every day, if you're savvy enough to understand what they're saying, they display their true colors and their animosity, and in fact, their anti-American sentiments daily. What do you think was behind the words when President Obama said, we need to fundamentally transform America? He wasn't trying to be coy. He wasn't trying to hide his meaning and his intent for America. He doesn't think America as is good. He doesn't view American exceptionalism as relevant. He doesn't view America as a good nation. He thinks, and the radical liberal left think, that it needs to be transformed. Thank you very much. It does not. Founding fathers were brilliant in their adaptation of this. We all understand that any organization, whether it's a church, whether it's a country, whether it's your company, any organization that is run, led, and managed by human beings will not be perfect. But the things that they aspire to, those churches, those organizations, those countries, the things that they aspire to achieve can determine pathways to glory or pathways to hell. And we, as conservatives, aspire to find and discover the divine providence of God and his meaning for us within this republic that he created. We understand and we know that when we read our founding documents, those documents are inspired by God and written by men. And we try to the best of our ability to aspire to a better place because of those documents, because of the words within them, because of the guidance left to us by the founding fathers. How do we make America great again? The founding fathers were trying to do that. They were trying to make this new fledgling country better than it was. Why can't we make it better today? Why does the Make America Great movement trigger so many people? Precisely because it represents President Trump, and President Trump represents you. And the radical left cannot separate you from President Trump. And that's what infuriates them. That's the reason behind their driving force to persecute President Trump, to separate him from you. They do the same thing with religion. They do the same thing with society. They want to separate you from one another. They want to separate you from God. Anything that stands in the way, they want you to be dependent upon the state, the government. And we're not going to allow it. That's not the intent of God, and it's not the intent of the founding fathers. For the life of me, I do not know why people in the elected class, the celebrity class, or any other group that is in this whack job, woke, radical, liberal movement can't see that, other than the fact that they are possessed by the exact opposite forces that inspired the birth of this nation. And that's the only conclusion I can draw. Because it's not logical. Their side is not logical. It does not follow from what the founders and what God's divine providence revealed to us. For me, it's not, again, it's not about Christian nationalism as defined. However, the founders did intend God and the study of religion to be part of our fabric in society. Look and research the private journals of the founding fathers. Look at their public speeches. Look beyond just what's written in our founding documents. They intended God to be part of it, and in the public schools as well. But we've lost it. And that's part of the reason, perhaps the biggest reason, why we are here today. The loss of our focus of the divine providence of God. But we are getting it back, and America will not go away. We are not on our deathbed. The trends across the planet are in our favor. And we will see a swing to the right this November. Now, we're going to have to work hard to maintain that swing to the right. We're going to have to look. Now, President Trump has a big decision with regards to his vice president. A lot of people out there want General Flynn, and I don't blame you for wanting General Flynn. Now, General Flynn is a friend of mine. I asked him this question on my show just the other day, or not a question, but I made the statement to him. I said that the vice presidency would be wasted on him. I think General Flynn is too important for the vice presidency on the of the vice presidency, nor is it a criticism of the people who have been publicly vetted or publicly announced as potential vice presidents. I'm not criticizing any one of them. I think there's better things Flynn can do. General Flynn and I are roughly the same age. I think we need a young vice president. I think we need a young vice president who can be the standard bearer to be president in 2028 and in 2032. We're not just after 2024, are we? No, of course not. So let's look to someone who's young, truly conservative, and and who can be that standard bearer. I have no idea who it may be. I have opinions just like you do. There are some on that list that's been made public that I like, and some that I would prefer not to be on that list. But we will arrive there, and we hope, because look, and I've met President Trump a few times. I've met his son Eric several times, and he's been on the show. One of the Achilles heels of the Trump administration was that there were too many people in that inner circle that were disloyal to President Trump. And from my vantage point, as you know, my life in corporate America, I was VP of Human Resources. So we were part of my job to be able to tell, you know, and to vet people and to make sure that they were positioned properly, loyal to the company, loyal to the policies, loyal to the procedures, all of that. Well, to be honest, and you know my love for President Trump, love the guy. He's the most substantial president this republic has ever had. There's a spot reserved for him on Mount Rushmore. But he had a problem with people who got into his inner circle who were not loyal to him and caused problems for the administration. So the hope now is, of course, President Trump knows the game. He knows what to do. He knows the rubrics of how the presidency works. And so hopefully he gets somebody in there who's the chief of staff who can help him vet and secure people that remain loyal to the MAGA movement and the platform that we have and the desires that we want to make America great again. And a little bit of isolationism is not a bad thing. To pull back and say, wait a minute, America is going to take care of America for these next 4 years or whenever. We're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to take care of our people. We're going to lock down our borders. We're going to gather up and get rid of the illegals that have come across, at least as many as we can. And we're going to reset. We're going to reset. And that's what we need to focus on. All right. I've been going a little long. We do have some callers coming in. And again, I appreciate you calling. You can see the number on the screen there, 901-316-8404. Dan in Wisconsin. Dan, welcome to The Right Side.
Hey, I was just calling in to see what you thought about Vivek for vice president, since he's kind of a younger guy.
Dan, I like Vivek. I do. I think he is definitely young. He's articulate. He's savvy, smart. Says it like it is. He has a lot of the Trumpisms that we like, right, from the MAGA movement. He seems to be unfiltered in what he says. He can think on the fly. He can think, off the top of his head. He's good. He's quick. I like him. What are your thoughts about him?
I think he seems smart and got the entrepreneurial mindset just like Trump. So that's why I like him.
I agree. I think it's about time. In fact, I have said that President Trump should probably consider someone who's not a politician. Let's get a president and a vice president who are not politicians, who are businessmen, who can get this ship righted, the ship of American industry, the economy, and so forth. And I agree with you. The sense of entrepreneurialism that Vivek brings is an interesting one. So I think it's an interesting choice. What else?
I just think he appeals really well to the younger crowd. I think he's popular on social media, and that could get some younger people going toward Trump, if you ask me.
Dan, what, if you don't mind me asking, what demographic do you fall in? Are you Gen Z? Are you millennial? Generation X? What are you?
I'm 23. I don't know what generation that is. But
all right, 23. Somebody call in and tell us what generation is 23. I think it might be Gen Z. You must be a Trump guy, right?
Yes, sir, definitely.
So it's good. See, this is exactly what I mean by hope in America and why I don't believe that she's on her deathbed. It's because of people like Dan here in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a battleground state. Dan is 23 years old, and he's a Trump guy. And I have read articles, even in legacy people in publications that people would tend to think were liberal, where Dan's generation, the Generation Z generation, are moving towards the right side, towards President Trump, in record numbers. And here's Dan calling into the show, part of that demographic. Dan, your circle of friends, your circle of influence, your friends, your family, how many people your age do you know that are on Trump's side?
All my close friends in my circle, college guys from Wisconsin, are we're all pretty much pro-Trump. My family is pretty conservative as well.
Where do you go to college, Dan? Yep. Is he there? Dan, are you with me? We're trying to get him back. Well, okay, that's fine. He dropped off. Well, Dan, look, thanks for the call, Dan from Wisconsin. Appreciate that. But ladies and gentlemen, look, so college-aged Dan calls in. He's 23 years old, member of Generation Z, going for Trump. Most of his friends in college are going for Trump. Remember the riots we had? Remember on the college campuses, the pro-Palestinian folks rioting, destroying. You saw some video. I'm sure that most of you, if not all of you, saw the destruction that was left behind in their wake. Again, typical of liberal behavior. When they gather together, to protest, and when things don't go their way, they absolutely destroy every place they go. Graffiti all over the walls, inside of beautiful educational institutions, inside and outside, absolutely destroyed. And college students on the right side, conservative college students, come to the rescue, where the American flag was taken down and the Palestinian flag was raised. There should be no such display of the Palestinian flag in America. Now, if you want to fly it on your own porch, that's your own business. But at state institutions, educational institutions, etc., no. And it was college students, Dan from Wisconsin, his age, who came to the rescue, picked the American flag up, put it back up, displayed it proudly. This is what I'm talking about. And that might seem like a small deal. It might seem like an insignificant example, but it's not. It's a huge example of the reawakening of the divine providence of God and patriotism within America. How is the divine providence of God related to patriotism? But because God inspires the goodness that comes to us from the founding fathers, that's written within our documents, that many of us have grown up with. And we know and believe that America represents that, and the flag is an expression of it. And so they come to the flag's rescue. That is a big deal, especially when you're surrounded by a mob of hundreds of people who want to stone you to death because of that belief in America. So good news, and thank you, Dan, for that call. And it's good to see people standing up for the republic like that. I appreciate it very much. We are, I think, we are in for a good election turnout. Again, I don't take anything for granted. Back in 2020, we were all scratching our heads and wondering, once we went through that debacle and the outcome that 2020 represented, right? How are they going to do it again, the radical left? Because we know they don't like to give up power. They're not going to let go of their grip of power. How are we going to prevent that from happening? I remember specifically sitting down with my friend Mike Beeler, who helped me write my book, Remaking the American Political System. If you haven't got a copy of that book, please go out and grab it. You can get it on my website, dougbillings.us. It's called Remaking the American Political System. And it is a handbook about how we restore this republic to the intent of others. We have to begin to understand exceptionalism is nothing to be of, that it was intended by the founders and God himself. And we're seeing this rise of nationalism throughout the country, throughout the world. Make no mistake about it. So there's great hope indeed. If the radical left liberal mob were allowed to remain in power and cling to power, we would be, there would be no exceptionalism in America. And we look at the mob, we look at the radical left, and we try to figure out how they're going to do it again with regards to election outcomes. Well, we see it right now with lawfare. We see what they're doing to President Trump. That's it. That's their next move. When they can't stop him in, suppressing votes or adding 2 votes illegally, they begin to wonder, then how else can we do it? We've got to get him off the ballot. We've got to persecute him. We've got to prosecute him. We've got to arrest him. Got to charge him with crimes. And they make all of this stuff up and they go after the guy. So so the answer to the question is, what are they going to do next? Well, here it is. We're living through it right now. Everything that he's facing is going to be overturned in time. Let them enjoy their moment. The felony, the former president felon, let him enjoy. Say it all you want. Felon, Trump is a felon. All right. It's temporary. I've said that yesterday. I'll say it again because it bears repeating. because we need to bolster ourselves up with that hope. That is reality. It is temporary, and that's how they're going to do it. We, on the right, begin to take measures into our own hands. Too big to rig. What does that mean? We've got to show up and vote. We got to show up and vote on election day, as I was talking about earlier. And we will prevail. We will give ourselves permission to believe that. And our activism will be activism that is righteous and good, and it will not be anything other than inspired by the founders and God and his divine providence. We will see this through, my friends. Look at it, think about it, pray about it, and talk about it. Don't be embarrassed to talk about it with your friends and your family of influence. I encourage you to watch this program. I encourage you to share this program. If you have people who think might be a good guest, call in and talk with us about these things. It's important that we talk with each other. It's important that we build each other up. It's important that we listen to each other. It's important that we know we're all in this together. You are the most important people in the room, if you know what I mean. You people watching and listening to this program, you're the most important people out there. You are the ones who will get this done. It's not the guy sitting behind the microphone. It's the guy and the gal out there on the streets who will go do the work of determined patriotism. We all do what we can do. We all do what we can with the gifts and the talent that every day I get to enter into your lives. And I'm honored and touched every day that you enter into my life. I am grateful for that. I appreciate it more than you ever can know. And I want us to be able to talk live. That's part of the reason why I revamped the format of this show, to come to you live every single day. Prior to this week, I had recorded the shows and released them. Now we're with you every day, Monday through Friday, 5 to 6:30 Central Time, and making them available after the fact. So you can watch them, you can catch up with them if you weren't able to see them on the live broadcast. We're going to have it on the website next week. We have it on all of my social media platforms that I've been on: Facebook, X, YouTube, Locals, Rumble, etc. They're all out there. Share them, and let's together make this nightmare go away. Let's wake each other up and share them with people who not only need to hear the message, but people who already believe in the message, because we have to inspire one another. That's when you think about the founder's intent, that's really the crux of it. Each of us taking care of each other in our local communities. We should not be dependent upon the government for help and assistance, unless in times of extreme tragedy. Think about it. In the colonial days, if your barn burned down, it wasn't the federal government who came to your rescue. It was your neighbor who came to your rescue. That's the essence of the American spirit. That's the essence of American morality. The radical left doesn't have a sense of American morality. They don't have a sense. They are a coalition of immorality. Look at what they try to do. Look at what they try to do. Mutilation of children's genitalia just because that child feels like they've been misappropriated a gender, and the left will dare to try to convince that child that they can find wonder, joy, and meaning in cutting up and mutilating their genitalia, ladies and gentlemen. And I understand those words are hard to hear, but we need to say them. All right, going back to the call lines, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. Marnie from Missouri, my home state. Marnie, welcome to the right side.
Hey, Doug. How's it going today?
It's good, Marnie. How about you? How are things in Missouri?
They're going great. We've got some awesome candidates running. We've got central committees filling up with patriots, and we're taking back our state.
This is what I'm talking about. So, Marnie, are you involved in that kind of thing? Are you on a committee? Do you help out with some candidates down there?
Yes, I do. I am a Republican Central Committee woman for the Cape Girardeau County Republican Central Committee. I volunteered as a secretary 2 years ago, and I just got in there to serve and, see if I could figure out how, the grassroots could get involved in the party in which we always vote with. And I learned about the precinct strategy from being an avid listener of Steve Bannon's War Room. And so I studied Dan Schultz's precinct strategy, and I mobilized it. And I inspired a few grassroots patriots in our community to join me. And between me and some very patriotic folks that had been established on the committee for a while, we recruited 23 people in the last 2 years. And we're voting some more people on in the next couple of months. And we've got a bunch of patriots that signed up to join the committee. And they're running against people that have been on the committee for a long while and, maybe aren't as conservative as we'd love them to be. So, yeah, we have great things going on in Cape Girardeau.
This is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this Marnie is demonstrating to us what the template is for conservative involvement in America, in our local levels of government, because you can forget about Washington, D.C. And Marnie, I'm sure you would agree with me. We are not dependent upon change ever beginning or starting in Washington, D.C. The change that we seek as true American conservatives happens within our local levels and filters its way up, or maybe down, however you want to look at it, to Washington, D.C. Yep. So, Marnie, tell me about. So, you're in Cape Girardeau. That's the home. That's the birthplace and the beginnings of Rush Limbaugh, one of the men I admire most in history. Yep. And you got David Limbaugh down there. I see him on social media from time to time. Another great guy posting from time to time on social media. But in your local communities and in your role as committee woman, when you in your area in Missouri, do you? Because of this rhino problem, I know a little bit about Missouri because it's my home state, and I pay attention to the politics in Missouri quite a bit. We on paper in Missouri, we look thoroughly red. If you were to look at us on paper, wow, you guys have got majorities of Republicans in your state Senate and Congress, and You got a governor, but we're not, because we're plagued by the rhino problem. And so my question to you going forward in Missouri with regards to this, to combat the rhino issue, because it's been my contention that, look, if somebody wants to run for office with the privilege and the honor of having an R behind their name, well, then by gosh, we as the public and as the guardians of our state need to be assured that this person who wants to put an R behind their name is really a true conservative Republican. So I am a huge fan and proponent of vetting these candidates. Yep. Does that resonate with you?
It does. It does. And vetting is really important because it gives you a current view of either that candidate's voting record and, what's their record been as they have run as a Republican? How often have they voted with the Democrats on liberal policies? And so, like in the state of Missouri, we actually have a Central Committee Association called REPAC-MO, and it was started, and it is ran by Republican Central Committee men and women who, got together and decided enough is enough. And they created a vetting process that, if you're an existing candidate, evaluates your voting record. And they look into things like, do you pay your property taxes on time? Do you stay out of trouble? Are there any, have you been beating your wife? And if you have, then you're probably not a great person to be on our ticket. So, we check, people's case net. We check their, the things that we can check as far as like, are they being responsible citizens, with their property taxes and things like that. And then if they've never been in office, we have a values survey. And that values survey is 100% based on the Republican Missouri platform and the national platform. And so, they're given several questions. I think maybe it's somewhere, maybe around 29 to 30 questions or so. I don't remember how many questions we have. But they answer the questions. They're given multiple choice answers. And, so the question might say something to the nature of, what do you believe, the Republican Party's values are concerning life and the sanctity of life? And so they'll be given, 4 options on, what the answer is on the sanctity of life. And it's a way to weed out rhinos that, if they answer the questions honestly, and of course people can try to manipulate anything, right? But, if they take the test or the survey, it just gives us a view of are the majority of their answers in line with Republican values and the Republican platform. And if they are, then they can get the Repack Mo endorsement of conservatism, and they can advertise that as they're running for office. A really great example of this is Jacob Turner. He is running for senator for my district that Cape Girardeau County is located in, and that's the 27th senatorial district. I actually got certified to be able to vet candidates in our area. And so I vetted Jacob, and he did a proctored test. The test was sent to us. It was proctored. We documented that it was him taking it. I actually watched him take it. And he scored glowingly on his values survey. And then he scored 100% with the vetting testing altogether. In every single category, he got every point that was available. And so we were able to determine that, Jacob is the true conservative running for this seat. So, yeah, vetting is key. But another thing that I think is key, Doug, for making sure that we have real Republicans running in primaries is I think that we need to put pressure on our legislature and our senators to pass legislation that closes our primary. Because one of the biggest problems that we have is that when a Democrat pretends to be a Republican and they run as a Republican, they go gather up all their Democrat buddies to pull the Republican primary ballot. And so you're not just contending for the conservative vote. You have infiltrators of Democrat voters picking up our Republican primary ballot and voting for the most liberal Republican on the ticket. So it's really important that we close the primary to Republicans only. That's something that would preserve our party. And we have to have leadership in Missouri that are leading the Missouri GOP that will take a stand to defend our values and will say, hey, if you don't align with us in the majority of all of the issues, you're probably not the best person to represent our brand.
I like it. I love it. In fact, I think it's exactly what we should be doing in every one of these states. Committee men and women like yourself who want to vet and need to vet the candidates who want to put the R behind their name. Now, we're almost against the end of the show here. I want to real quickly, Marnie, ask you this. What you mentioned new candidates, people who have not served in office before. In 20 seconds or less, how do you guys offer education for these candidates to teach them how to govern, to teach them the Robert's Rules of Order or whatever? Do you do such things?
So on the Central Committee level, no, we don't. But what
the local
we do,
county Republican groups and so forth, are there?
Now, the local county Republican groups do. So in Cape Girardeau County, we do have an activist conservative group. They're called Guardians of Liberty. They do constitutional education weekly. They bring in speakers weekly. They engage with the candidates and invite them to these constitutional classes and education and training and things on how to be effective as a conservative and how to stand for your values and how to know when you get to Jeff City, govern according to the Constitution, not according to whoever's putting money in your pocket.
You bet.
So, and that's the other problem, I think, is that, a lot of people get into office and they govern based on what the lobbyists want them to do, not based on what the citizens have sent them there to do.
Yep. At the end of the show here, I've got to let you go. I want to let you know, though, I appreciate you very much. I appreciate what you're doing. You're an example of what we all need to do as conservatives to get involved in our local level. And you mentioned Jacob Turner, so I'll give him a shout out. Jacob Turner down in the 27th District running for the state Senate in Missouri. Make sure, Missourians, that you support him and do what Marnie has done. Get involved at some level. Marnie, thanks again from Missouri. Appreciate you coming on the right side.
Appreciate you too, Doug. You're doing good work. We appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. We're all in this together. All right, ladies and gentlemen, almost time for me to say so long. Reminding you once again, DougBillings.us. Please head over to the website, support us over there so that we can continue to bring you this show. I really do appreciate you. You're part of the reason why we will recover. DougBillings.us. Right over there, you can see right there on your screen. The website is there. I'm asking you to prayerfully consider a recurring monthly donation of your choice, and we will together engage to provide the program for you and get it out there. I ask you that you share it. Feel free to tag me in a social media post or whatever. Let's engage in some conversation on social media and support one another that way as well. And again, tell your friends about the show, 5 o'clock to 6:30, Monday through Friday, Central Time. And the phone number there, you've seen it on the screen all night, will be with you again. DougBillings.us, ladies and gentlemen, we will save this republic one county and one state at a time. The right side is winning, and we will see you again tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. Believe it. For the republic. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation,